All right, hello everyone in Summit County, Colorado. This video is going to be a little bit boring. Unfortunately, it is just about regulations that's going on in the county in regards to short-term rental restrictions and what the Board of County Commissioners is imposing. So again, it's not lifestyle-based, it's not super exciting. This is really just if you're a property owner in Summit County or if you're looking to buy or sell property in Summit County, this will affect you. Now, when I talk about Summit County, I do mean unincorporated Summit County, not the municipalities like Breckenridge or Frisco or Dillon. These are areas that are not governed by the towns. These are the regulations that are going to affect you. So the county commissioners approved on first reading a new ordinance to impose license caps on short-term rental licenses in unincorporated Summit County. They're basically dividing the county into two separate zones, one called the Neighborhood Overlay Zone, the other called the Resort Overlay Zone. The caps are intended for the Neighborhood Overlay Zone to reduce the amount of complaints in those neighborhoods, as well as help locals with housing in those neighborhoods. Resort overlay zones will not be affected at all. They will continue to be allowed to short-term rent an unlimited nights per year. So if you are buying a property in resort overlay zones like Keystone or Copper, you need not worry because you will be able to short-term rent indefinitely going forward. So they did pass this on first reading. There will be a final vote on February 15th at 9:30 a.m. If you are an unincorporated county property owner, I highly recommend attending as they will be taking public comment, or attend via Zoom so you can be better informed. But this is basically going to be a dumbed down version of what they're suggesting for their new ordinance. It's honestly a little confusing, and I myself still don't fully understand it, as most agents out here don't, and as most property owners don't. Basically, the county is being divided into several different basins. If you want more information on those basins, I'm happy to provide that for you. But they're talking about capping the amount of short-term rental licenses in each basin at a lower number than what is actively out there right now. So know that once this passes on February 15th, if you're looking to buy property in unincorporated Summit County, you're likely not going to be able to get a license at least until 2025 is what they're projecting. And they're planning to do that through attrition, basically resale of properties, and when property owners do not renew their license. So first, those able to get type 1 and type 2 licenses, which certain parameters have to be met to get these licenses. They have went away with the 135 night rental cap and instead have exchanged that with a 26 booking restriction. So you can't book your property more than 26 bookings a year, and that could look like any combination of bookings. So it could be 26 one weekend stays, it could be 26 full week stays, it could be any combination in between. Again, just another way to mitigate the short-term rental complaints in this neighborhood overlay zone. Number 2, the type 3 permit was eliminated, and this permit was for short-term rental owners, basically investors looking to short-term rent their property an unlimited amount of nights a year. You had to meet a couple of conditions. They've completely gone away with the type 3 permit, so going forward, you will not be able to rent out a unincorporated county property an unlimited amount of nights per year. And then 3, the county commissioners eliminated the 20% threshold against the cap for type 1 licenses. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a couple of parameters that you have to meet to get a type 1 license. According to them, they are now talking about having that parameter set as someone who living in the property has to be a qualified occupant. And a qualified occupant is somebody who works for the county at least 30 hours a week, or worked for the county for 15 years and retired. Something along those lines. It's still not very clear yet, but if your home is occupied by a qualified occupant, you can get a type 1 license. This type 1 license will not count towards the cap so long as that total number in the corresponding basin is lower than 20% of the total number of short-term rental licenses that are active. Once the number of licenses for that type 1 license goes above 20%, then it will count towards the short-term rental cap. I know, I probably lost you right there. It's super confusing. I'm not really sure where they came up with this idea, but this is kind of what they're going for. Again, it's a way to incentivize property owners to house qualified occupants or locals who work for the county, but then they'll also be able to short-term rent their property, say on weekends, or rent out part of their property, or if they have an accessory dwelling unit, being able to rent out that, or some combination thereof. So that's kind of what they're going for. Again, I just spit out a ton of information at you guys, and I'm sure it's extremely confusing. If you want some more information, feel free to email me, anthony.soul@livsir.com. That's LIVSIR.com, or shoot me a text. I'll include my phone number in the description below. These are still not finalized yet, although they're planning for February 15th. So these regulations have been changing so much ever since the pandemic happened, and there's just a lot of confusion going on. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about this and how it affects your property going forward.